Freelance reporter Megan Williams joins me with more from Rome via Skype. I'm sure eyebrows are being raised around the world. Tell me about this correspondence and how it began, Megan.
Well, it was a correspondence that lasted 30 years. It began in 1973 with a letter from the woman Teresa Tomieniecka, who wrote to the Pope. She was Polish from an aristocratic family, but lived in the United States. She was a philosopher, married to a Harvard professor, and she was intrigued by one of the Pope's philosophical books. Of course, he wasn't the Pope then. He was Karol Wojtyła, who was the bishop of the Polish city of Krakow. So they began a correspondence. The letters appear to reveal a deep emotional bond that began fairly soon after, and also a strong intellectual connection. They talked about philosophical matters, religious matters. At a certain point, it appears that she may have fallen in love with him about 3 years after they began their correspondence. And Vatican observers such as Carl Bernstein are calling the letters that the Pope wrote to her extraordinary.
This is an extraordinary relationship. It is out of the ordinary in the papal context. It's not illicit. Nonetheless, it's fascinating. It changes our perception.
And speaking of that, how does it change people's perceptions of the Pope, do you think, Megan?
Well, Pope John Paul II was, by any account, I think, the first mediatic pope. He was immensely popular. He reached, for the first time in history, millions, if not billions of people through television, radio. He traveled extensively. He was the first pope to travel to the extent that he did. So we knew a lot about this pope, and of course he was pope for a very long time, more than 2 decades. He's become a saint. He was fast-tracked to sainthood, became a saint 9 years after he died. So it's a pope that on the one hand we know a lot about, but on the other hand we don't really, we've never had any glimpses into his personal life. And I think that's what these letters show, and I think that's why they're extraordinary, is that it's the first time that such a public figure, and someone for Catholics who is considered a saint, to be able to look into a personal correspondence with a woman whom he clearly respected a lot and who also influenced him. I mean, she admired him, but she was also critical of him. She herself said in his early works, she found his writings on sex and love reflections of someone who really didn't know what he was talking about. And he listened to her, and his own intellectual life was influenced by her. So I think that's what's particularly interesting about these letters that we'll hear more about in this BBC documentary that's going to air soon.